We bring to you the first day of the just kick-started Tokyo Olympics 2020 with the official ceremony that we were talking about happened yesterday, and today starts and marks day one of Tokyo Olympics 2020, where we were telling all of you what events will you be seeing from the Indian angle today. And since we were talking of the Indian angle, the last one that we finished on, I believe, Amit, if I'm not mistaken, was boxing or was it hockey?
It was badminton, and
yes.
while all eyes are on PV Sindhu, the two names that you mentioned, Sai Praneeth in men's singles.
Yes.
I think that even men's badminton has done very well.
Yes.
And overall, with the sport garnering the limelight, with the film also being made on Saina Nehwal, who won us the bronze in 2012. Things augur well for badminton. Total 4 athletes in badminton.
Yes, of course. And I do remember also when the Honorable Prime Minister of our country, Shri Narendra Modi, was also having a conversation with all the athletes who are going to be representing India. It was a moment of huge pride because we had so many athletes out there express their heartfelt desire and gratitude for just the sheer fact that it's a huge honor. It's a humbling feeling, but at the same time, a huge honor to represent our country, a nation, on the global platform and be provided that opportunity in itself. I think it fills each one's heart with pride and joy that just being able to do that, Amit, is something that all of us wish to. I still know that when the national anthem plays in our studio over here, it gives each one of us goosebumps, and that's a moment that we'll be waiting that we get to witness more often in the studio this time in the Tokyo Olympics. And it's also overwhelming and beautiful for each one of us as professionals from the work of sport to be back in the space to bring you the live sport action of the Tokyo Olympics 2020. From here, we'll move on to the schedule that we were talking about as to what events are going to be lined up, taking you directly to badminton. Here's a quick lineup of the events that you'll be witnessing in badminton today. Since we were talking of badminton, Amit, we've talked about a lot of sports that have happened or will be happening today. Are we still missing out on any of the events, if you can remember, in the day that are going to be happening in any sport?
Well, there's much more actions. We talked about judo, where Sushila Devi is there. We were talking about badminton, where you will see action from Sai Praneeth in men's singles, and the duo of Satvik Sairaj and Chirag Shetty in men's singles as well, doubles. But don't forget table tennis. You've got a very experienced Sharant Kamal, and one expects that given that Manika Batra has done so well in Commonwealth, winning the gold, both the men's and women's table tennis players to perform well at Olympics.
Of course, yes. See, at the end of the day, each one of us is going to be pinning hopes for all the athletes who are going to be part of the Tokyo Olympics. But one event that is yet to be also mentioned in the schedule of the day today would be rowing, where of course in rowing, when we're looking at, it starts off in the Indian time in short while. In fact, just around 7:30 a.m. we will be witnessing the event of rowing happening, where we have lightweight men's double sculls heat 2, where Arvind Singh and Arjun Lal are going to be representing India. It's always been one of those events where India hasn't been talked of much on the international forum because rowing obviously has not been able to make its presence felt globally on the platform. But given the fact that the Indian Olympic Association, Amit, has also put a lot of pressure on the athletes this time that they need to give credible performances and not just get away from the tournament by giving a few disappointing performances. So that pressure and the expectation, I'm hoping, is also going to push the athletes up to give not their 100%, but in fact give 200% this time.
Absolutely. When you talk about India, we've got a coastline of 7,500 kilometers. And I always believe whether it is rowing, sailing, or even swimming, where we have representation this time, we should be actually naturally excelling in water sports.
Yes, that's a very beautifully said thing, because of course at the end of the day, when we talk of rowing or swimming or something, given how open waters also can be very challenging for any kind of a swimmer or an athlete, but it is something that we should not just discount of one sport because we haven't had a very good performance internationally over there. It's something that each athlete or every person who is a part of the sporting fraternity should aim to achieve, which is excellence in his or her genre of sport that in which they are a part of. And that is what we also as professionals wish for the Indian contingent to go out there and do, is not just bring medals, but what is more important than that is to give your 200% and aim for that podium finish. It's okay if you don't finish off on the podium, but at the end of the day, if you were able to bring a smile on our faces as viewers and fans over here and give your heartfelt 100% till the end, I think that's all that matters.
Well, sports is all about bringing smiles, but then of course if you do lose out on a medal by a fraction of a second, it could also be agony. An array of emotions will be on display over the fortnight as the Tokyo 2020 Olympics will unfold, and we'll get you all the action and analysis right here on Doordarshan. We're talking about the colourful opening ceremony. It was a pretty long ceremony.
Yes.
It started at 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and it continued for nearly 4 hours. So it's very essential for all our viewers to also know that there is a time difference between the Japanese Standard Time and the Indian Standard Time. Japan is known as the land of rising sun. So it's about 3.5 hours ahead of us. So if right now it's say about 5 in the morning here, so it's 8:30 in Japan. So I hope that will help you put into perspective. But our endeavor will be, when we show you the placards, the time that we show is Indian Standard Time. So there's no confusion there. But let me talk about the opening ceremony.
Yes.
If you ask me my best moment, I liked when you had the tennis sensation, Osaka Naomi, walking up the ladder and lighting the Olympic cauldron.
Yes.
That was brilliant. And the other thing that was absolutely spectacular, and if you haven't watched that, please do, is when you had these drones.
Yes.
And it almost looked, Sakshi, that there was a moon, another moon in the sky, replicating the shape on the ground.
Yes,
absolutely breathtaking.
Breathtaking. Yes, in fact, also when the fireworks went up, you know, as a kid, I always loved to witness fireworks. And even though the duration of those fireworks was pretty small and very short-lived, but that moment, of course, we all live for. I personally live for, because I love that, witnessing that. In fact, there's also a piece of information that I would like to give to our viewers, since we're talking of the opening ceremony, that not many of you would have been knowing this fact, that the wood that was used to carve the Olympic rings in this year's, which is of course 2020, we are talking of presently 2021, but Tokyo 2020 Olympics opening ceremony was of course made from the trees which were planted way back by the athletes in 1964 games when they happened then in Japan. It's almost after 50 years that Japan is getting a chance once again to host the Olympics in their home ground, and it's a moment of pride, which is why they made sure that the Olympic rings that you witnessed in the opening ceremony were made from the same trees that were planted way back in 1964 when Japan hosted the Olympics.
Absolutely. So this is the second time in the capital city of Japan, Tokyo is hosting the Summer Olympics. It was in 1964, 57 years back, time flies. But we were able to recall the effort that was made then. The trees that were planted in 1964, 57 years down the line, the opening ceremony that you saw, and the 5 rings that represent the continents, and that's the symbol for Olympics, were actually carved out from those trees. Isn't that fantastic? And what a beautiful connect. Yes. Absolutely brilliant connect. And if you look at Tokyo, so while it is hosting the second time, and even in the opening ceremony, it was Japan's team, the contingent that came last, that perhaps had the loudest roar. And the penultimate contingent that came was France, because the next Olympics is going to happen in Paris. That's 2024. That'll happen only from 3 years from now. Yes. And then you've got Los Angeles. So America contingent, which is one of the biggest contingents, 600 plus. And if you look at the history of Olympics, they've bagged the maximum number of medals. So this time also, while we expect India to do well, don't forget USA, UK, China and Russia. So look forward to nice, healthy competition.
Yes, of course. And we are also looking at the archery event kick-starting day 1 today. So when we're looking at the archery event that we're looking at, I'll just give you a quick stat over here of a record that was in fact broken yesterday by Korea's An San, who broke her own Olympic record by 6. She had 680 points, and this was a 25-year-old record which this young girl went ahead and broke yesterday. And the Koreans had the top 3 finish, in fact, in women's archery solo events, and that is one of the events, in fact, which is going to have all the eyes of the Indians also in the tournament. But from here on, I think, Amit, it's time now for us to take our viewers directly to the live action that's going to be kick-starting day 1, which is with archery.